rights to what he says. So I've instructed the jury to consider his statements and not the other statements. So we'll understand that these are responses to statements made by the defendant. We can proceed accordingly.
All right. Detective, in your review of the cell phone, up until after Emily went missing, did you find anything that suggested somebody other than Emily Noble was using her phone?
No, sir.
Detective, I'm showing you page 2 of this exhibit. Do you see 2 messages there from Matt Moore's phone?
Yes, sir.
And what did those say?
The first one says, okay.
And what did the other one say?
The next text message says, why does it bother you so much? Am I mean?
Does that mean anything to you without considering what led to those statements being made?
Objection as to what it means to him.
That's speculation.
No, I'm not asking him to. I'm not asking him to opine. I'm just asking: is that statement by itself, does it make any sense without the context of the statement that comes before it? I was just doing this one backwards to explain the court's evidentiary ruling.
Same objection with respect to speculation.
Well,
All right. Well, I'll just show him the message that came before.
okay, go ahead.
Can you read the message that came right before those 2 things?
The message from Emily Noble's phone says, I want to know if you start on vodka before I get home. I can't watch that again.
And what was the response?
Okay. And then, why does it bother you so much? Am I mean?
And what was the response?
The response from Emily's phone is not mean, unintelligible.
And what did Mr. Moore say at that time?
He responded back, well, then try and get here as soon as you can, please.
Detective, I'm not showing you what's labeled as page 66. Can you tell us what that second message there is on this page?
It says, I started drinking at like 11 a.m. yesterday, and I drank way too much. I'm going to start cooking at 5. Do you mind if I have a drink when I start cooking? And I promise not to get hammered.
Another message from the defendant's phone, at the bottom of the page.
It says, thanks. I'm going to get it together soon. I just need to let this sadness thing run its course. It won't be much longer.
Now, page 67, is there a message from Emily Noble's phone?
Yes, there is.
And what was that?
It says you have to stay positive.
And then what did the defendant say?
He responded with, you're afraid to talk.
And the response?
The response from Emily's phone is, it's difficult to impossible to talk with you when you have vodka brain.
And what was the defendant's response to that?
Matthew Moore says, that is an excuse. You are afraid to be confronted with things you don't agree with. Your intellect is shallow.
And did he continue texting on the next page, page 68?
Yes, he did.
And what did he say there?
He said, you are not interested in what other people think or say. It's not an insult, it's an observation. If you hear something you don't agree with, you get mad and give it no credence. Maybe you should leave me alone.
Detective, in the bottom of page 69, can you tell us what that message is?
It says, "My toenail is growing back. Looks good. Where did you go last night?"
And what was the date and time on that?
It is November 22nd, 2019. You want me to read? Oh, did you want the time? And the time is 12:08:14 p.m.
And what was the response to that question?
"I'm scared to go home." And "Are you drinking vodka?"
And what was his response?
"I'm not drinking."
Detective, I'm going to hand you what I'm marking as State Exhibit 81B.
"I'm scared to go home." Those were Emily Noble's words to her husband. The person this case is all about, Emily Noble, was afraid to return to her home. Let that sink in for a moment. Let me bring in my guests, attorneys Joe Tamburino and Don Malarsic, standing by to give us some legal analysis today. Joe, your thoughts on what she's saying here to him in these messages, please.
Well, these are damaging messages for the defense, and most states, I'm not familiar with Ohio, perhaps Don could answer this, most states have specific laws on relationship evidence, because obviously in a situation where you have a spouse die and the other spouse is suspect number one, you can get into their relationship. Now, there are limitations, and most states have such limitations, but right now they're getting into prior relationship evidence, and with Ms. Noble being afraid of him, that's damaging to the defense.
Oh, most definitely it is, Joe. And if I were on the side of the state looking at this case, and if I felt that this is a domestic violence case and there was DV going on in that relationship, that is how I would frame the whole case from the outset. We didn't exactly see it framed that way in the opening statements, but here we are, and it's kind of coming out in dribbles. Don, when you're on the defense side anticipating all of this, knowing that this stuff could be coming in through discovery, what, if anything, can you do to counteract that? When they get their chance, we know they're pretty aggressive. What do you think would be the best thing for them to do to refute this?
Well, I think two things, Julie. First of all, the defense has to point out that, Mr. Moore's son had just committed suicide. So this was a really dark and difficult and depressing time in his life. I'm not suggesting that alcohol is the way to deal with that, but he was obviously suffering from some real significant trauma himself. And secondly, I think we're going to hear a lot from the defense about his wife's own mental health issues and her seeking some help through counseling and her propensity perhaps to even take her own life. So I think it's building towards that, but you're absolutely right. This is a really devastating piece of evidence for the defense, and they're going to have to deal with it when they get the opportunity.
Don, I'm so glad you mentioned that about the records, too. This was something that we wanted to ask you, knowing that you and Joe are regular analysts on Fridays on this show. We love having you guys. And we thought with you practicing in Ohio for all of your career and knowing the law so well there, you're actually death penalty certified as well. We know there was a little bit of a battle this morning where defense counsel is asking the judge to allow them to introduce Emily Noble's mental health records as part of their case evidence when it comes time. And to our knowledge, the judge has reserved ruling on this. I wanted you to weigh in whether or not you think this evidence should come in, why or why not, please.
Well, I think it's going to come in for two different reasons. Number one, this is the defense. The defense is that Ms. Noble had committed suicide. This wasn't a homicide. So it's absolutely relevant to their defense. And the second issue is, if you remember, Julie, there was a witness early on that testified the only reason that Ms. Noble went to counseling was to fulfill her obligations for Family Medical Leave Act, suggesting perhaps that she didn't have any significant mental health issues. So once that door is opened and the prosecution witness says she really didn't have any serious mental health issues, she's just going there to ensure she gets time off of work, then the defense can rebut that and say, no, look, here are her records. These are her words to her counselor to attempt to rebut that.
Exactly. I appreciate that so much, Don. Thank you. Joe, wanted to also bring up something you were saying. You think that the state really might have missed an opportunity to call a very particular kind of expert when you have body decomposition in a case like this, where Emily Noble went missing in May, found in September, the remains partially skeletonized, and cause and manner of death is so critical. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you would kindly.
Yes, they're called forensic entomologists. These are experts in the area of body decomposition with insect infestation. And it's very fascinating because when a body starts to decompose, which is immediately upon death, there are bacteria and obviously flesh starts to decompose, decompensate, and you will get insect infestation. And these scientists can determine, because of how many offspring the insects have and what they've been doing, how far along death was. It's fascinating, and you could really pinpoint down a time of death, not to the exact minute and day, but pretty close. And the state should be looking at that.
Right. Joe, that's really, really a great point you just made, because we know this is coming. This forensic science is coming, and it's going to be strongly refuted by the defense side. So maybe a missed opportunity here. We'll see what they do. But as always, Joe Tamburino, Don Malarczyk, excellent analysis from you.